November 16, 2012. Willoughby Hills, Ohio. In a quiet suburban home, 41-year-old Lisa Knoefel sleeps peacefully beside her husband Kevin, completely unaware that downstairs, their 16-year-old foster daughter Sabrina Zunich is gripping a kitchen knife and preparing to commit one of the most brutal murders in Ohio history. Lisa had opened her heart and her home to this troubled teenager, believing she was saving a child who needed love and stability. Instead, she had unknowingly invited her own killer into her bedroom. What Lisa didn't know, what she could never have imagined, was that her husband and her foster daughter had been carrying on a secret sexual relationship, and that together, they had planned her murder down to the last horrifying detail. In the next few minutes, Lisa Knoefel would become the victim of not just one betrayal, but two, murdered by the child she was trying to save at the request of the man who had promised to love and protect her until death do them part. Lisa Knoefel seemed to have everything a woman could want. She lived in a beautiful home in the Cleveland suburbs with her husband Kevin and their two young daughters. She was described by friends as a devoted mother who went the extra mile to be a good parent, someone who truly cared about helping children in need. When the opportunity arose to foster 16-year-old Sabrina Zunich in July 2011, Lisa didn't hesitate. Sabrina came from a troubled background, parents who were allegedly alcoholics and drug addicts, a childhood marked by instability and neglect. Lisa saw a young girl who needed the kind of loving, stable home that she and Kevin could provide. For over a year, the arrangement seemed to work beautifully. Sabrina lived with the Knoefels, attended local schools, and appeared to be thriving in her new environment. Lisa treated her like one of her own daughters, including her in family activities and providing the guidance and support that Sabrina had never received from her biological parents. But beneath the surface of this seemingly perfect foster family, something dark and twisted was taking shape. A sexual relationship between 43-year-old Kevin Knoefel and his teenage foster daughter that would ultimately cost Lisa her life. The affair between Kevin Knoefel and Sabrina Zunich didn't happen overnight. It was a gradual process of grooming and manipulation that took advantage of a vulnerable teenager's desperate need for love and acceptance. Kevin was a master manipulator who understood exactly how to exploit Sabrina's psychological vulnerabilities. She was a girl who had never experienced stable parental love, who craved approval and affection, and who was easy to manipulate by someone who understood her emotional needs. After the murder of Lisa Knoefel, investigators discovered evidence that Kevin Knoefel had seduced Sabrina Zunich and was having a sexual relationship with his foster daughter. The affair was carefully hidden from Lisa and the outside world, conducted in secret while Lisa worked to provide a loving home for the girl she thought was just another member of their family. But Kevin's relationship with Sabrina wasn't just about sexual gratification, it was about power, control, and ultimately, the elimination of the one person who stood between them, his wife Lisa. Zunich testified at the trial of Kevin Knoefel that he'd threatened suicide if his wife wasn't killed. Kevin had convinced Sabrina that their relationship could never be fully realized as long as Lisa was alive, and that the only solution was murder. For a troubled teenager who had never experienced unconditional love, Kevin's manipulation was devastatingly effective. He convinced Sabrina that killing Lisa was not just necessary, it was an act of love that would allow them to be together forever. November 16, 2012. The Knoefel household was quiet as Lisa prepared for bed, completely unaware that this would be her last night alive. Kevin had carefully orchestrated the plan. He would remain in bed beside Lisa, creating an alibi, while Sabrina crept into their bedroom in the early morning hours and carried out the murder they had planned together. The teenager stabbed the 41-year-old almost 200 times while Knoefel's two younger daughters looked on in horror. But even this clinical description cannot capture the absolute brutality of what Sabrina did to the woman who had tried to save her. Sabrina Zunich stabbed her foster mother 178 times, brutally killing Lisa Knoefel in front of the 41-year-old's teenage and infant daughters. 178 stab wounds. The sheer number defies comprehension. This wasn't just murder, it was a frenzied act of overkill that continued long after Lisa was dead. The attack was so violent, so prolonged, and so brutal that Lisa's own children witnessed their mother's murder in real time, traumatized forever by the sight of someone they had lived with as a sister destroying their mother with unimaginable savagery. Kevin Knoefel lay in bed beside his dying wife, pretending to sleep while his foster daughter carved her to death with a kitchen knife. It was a performance of such callous indifference that it revealed the complete absence of human decency in both conspirators. Initially, the murder of Lisa Knoefel appeared to be a straightforward case of domestic violence, a troubled foster child who had snapped and killed her foster mother in a moment of rage. Police said Lisa Knoefel, 41, was sleeping in her bedroom when she was attacked. Sabrina was immediately identified as the perpetrator and arrested at the scene, covered in her foster mother's blood. But as investigators dug deeper into the circumstances surrounding the murder, a more complex and disturbing picture began to emerge. The relationship between Kevin and Sabrina, the planning that had gone into the attack, and the systematic manipulation that had led a teenager to commit such a brutal crime. The true nature of the crime, however, wouldn't be known for another 10 months. When the truth finally emerged, it would reveal a shocking betrayal. The investigation revealed that this wasn't a spontaneous act of violence by a disturbed teenager. It was a carefully planned conspiracy between a predatory foster father and the vulnerable girl he had groomed to be his weapon. Digital evidence, witness testimony, and forensic analysis all pointed to the same conclusion. Kevin Knoefel had orchestrated his wife's murder and manipulated Sabrina Zunich into carrying it out. Sabrina Zunich, 19, pleaded guilty last month to aggravated murder in the stabbing death of 41-year-old Lisa Knoefel in their home in the Cleveland suburbs. Her guilty plea came after extensive negotiations with prosecutors who recognized that while Sabrina had committed the physical act of murder, she had been manipulated and groomed by Kevin Knoefel. She was sentenced to 30 years to life in prison with the possibility of parole. The convicted killer expressed remorse at her sentencing hearing. The sentence reflected both the brutal nature of her crime and the recognition that she had been a victim of Kevin's manipulation. But the more important conviction came when Kevin Knoefel faced trial for conspiracy to commit murder. Today in a Lake County courtroom, a jury agreed with prosecutors that Kevin Knoefel convinced his foster daughter to kill her. In chilling detail, Sabrina Zunich, 19, testified how her foster father, Kevin Knoefel, 43, convinced her to murder his wife, 41-year-old Lisa Knoefel, at the couple's home in November 2012. Her testimony revealed the extent of Kevin's manipulation and the systematic way he had groomed her to become his accomplice in murder. Kevin Knoefel was convicted and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, a sentence that ensured he would never again have the opportunity to manipulate vulnerable young people into committing violence on his behalf.
Are you knowingly, freely, and voluntarily pleading guilty to one count of aggravated murder?
Yes, Your Honor.
Sabrina Zunich admits in open court on Thursday that she stabbed and slashed her foster mother, 41-year-old Lisa Knoefel, 178 times in Knoefel's Willoughby Hills home in November 2012.
Did you purposely cause the death of Lisa Knoefel?
Yes, Your Honor.
And did you use prior calculation and design and planning in order to commit that murder?
Yes, Your Honor.
Zunich's guilty plea is a formality because in June she provided damning testimony against the mastermind of the murder, Lisa Knoefel's husband, 43-year-old Kevin Knoefel.
What was his relationship to you?
It was when a foster father when needed to be, and when a lover when not being a foster father.
Zunich told the jury that after Kevin Knoefel seduced her and began a sexual relationship with her, he convinced her to kill his wife so that he could collect $785,000 in insurance policies he had on Lisa Knoefel's life.
Can you describe for us or give us an idea of exactly the statements that Mr. Knoefel made to you about his wife being gone?
She would be worth more dead than alive.
After listening to Zunich's testimony, a Lake County jury found Kevin Knoefel guilty, and he was sentenced to life in prison. Thursday, it was Sabrina Zunich's turn to take responsibility for her role in the brutal murder of a woman who had taken her in when no one else would.
I stabbed Lisa Knoefel to death with the cooperation and planning with Kevin Knoefel.
And you stabbed her, you cut her, as I understand it, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
On multiple occasions, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Sabrina Zunich gives prison interview after murdering foster mom, providing insight into the psychological manipulation that led to her crime. I was not mentally there, woman who murdered foster mom at foster dad's request says in prison interview. Today, Sabrina Zunich remains incarcerated, serving her sentence while grappling with the reality of what she did and the manipulation that led her to murder the woman who had tried to save her life. Her case has become a cautionary tale about the vulnerabilities in the foster care system and the potential for predators to exploit the children it's meant to protect. The murder of Lisa Knoefel exposed critical gaps in the oversight of foster families and the screening processes designed to protect vulnerable children from exactly this type of exploitation. Kevin Knoefel had been able to groom and manipulate his foster daughter while living under the same roof as his wife and biological children, highlighting the need for better monitoring and protection of children in care. When Lisa Knoefel welcomed 16-year-old Sabrina Zunich into her family, there's no way she could have predicted the chaos that would soon follow. Lisa's only crime was trying to help a child in need, an act of kindness that cost her everything. The case serves as a stark reminder that some of the greatest dangers to vulnerable children come not from strangers, but from the very people entrusted with their care and protection.